Dean, can you honestly tell me that you forgot? Forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
Kid stuff? Well, how about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
The Dream Police, they live inside of my bed. The Dream Police, they come to me in my head. The Dream Police, they're going to arrest me now. Oh no!
Grab a jam, I swear, this is town. It's my podcast. This guy's insane. Rock your brain. It's just a sound. A Steve Viera.
Hello, kiddies. It's now another brand new Viera Vault. Yes, it's been a while since I put one up. Had computer problems, and my whole computer had to be wiped out. So I lost the original intro. That's why you heard that glass shattering there. That was because I had to download the one that I put up on YouTube where I added visuals and stuff, and then me breaking the TV at the end. Check it out. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so... yeah, we got a real good one. But also, you know, the Viera Vault, I never put up one every week like I do the Rock and Metal podcast, Combat podcast. But that's because I really need to... I want every single episode to rule. Not that the Rock and Metal Combat podcast episodes all rule. They rule, all of them rule because I do it with somebody else. But when I'm solo... I don't have Ian here to help me out, you know, so I gotta come up with quality, man. And as you all know, you faithful listeners of the Viera Vault, our podcast over there is very different than my podcast over here. So, I mean, what's the point of doing another podcast if I'm going to do the same damn thing? Anyway, so this week is a really great one for you Cheap Trick fans. I know a lot of you aren't that follow me because you're more into the thrash or the heavy metal or whatever. But there are a lot of Cheap Trick fans, and I know you'll find that interesting. And, of course, I don't know if I said this in the past, but my show is not about numbers or fame or anything. It's what everything I do. It's like from the heart, man. I don't give a fuck for popularity or numbers or all that, but I do want people to listen. So this is going out to the Cheap Trick fans out there, and if you're not a Cheap Trick fan and you decide to stick around and listen, you'll never know. You might find something you might like from this band. It's not just, I want you to want me, Dream Police and The Flame. Believe me, they have many, many different type of songs, different type of music. And I got the great author, Robert Lawson, who wrote a great book called Stiff Competition, The Listener's Guide to Cheap Trick. It's an amazing book, what I've read so far, and I'll explain to you why I haven't finished the book, and I explained it to Robert as well. And he's a cool dude. He didn't get mad at me that I didn't finish the book. But I will finish the book, but there's a reason why I have to stop reading the book. And you'll hear about it all now, and again, I want to thank everybody on the last couple episodes, all your comments and feedback, which you will hear, as I always do, at the end of the interview. I'm going to read each and every comment and iTunes review and everything that you guys left will be toward the end of this episode with, of course, something from the vault. Gee, I wonder if it's going to be Cheap Trick. Anyway, so here we go. Let's get into the interview with the great Robert Lawson. All right, here we are with the Viera Vault with an exclusive interview with Mr. Robert Lawson, the author of the amazing Cheap Trick book. Let us know what the name of the book is, Robert.
That's Still Competition, The Listener's Guide to Cheap Trick.
Very, very great read. I'll be honest with you, I haven't read it all yet because I am in the process of doing Cheap Trick reviews, and I want to touch upon every chapter, every album as I do, because this book, let me tell you, if you're a Cheap Trick fan, you need this book. Because it's very detailed, and boy, you even got Bunny Carlos, and you got a lot of people from behind the scenes. How long did it take you to write this book?
Just almost 2 years, I guess, a year and a half or so.
So you're a huge Cheap Trick fan, obviously. How long have you been a fan of Cheap Trick?
I can actually pinpoint it to when I was a kid. My dad took me to see Kiss on the Love Gun tour in 1977. So Cheap Trick were the opening act, and that's where I first heard them. It was July 21st, 1977. I knew nothing about them, and they blew me away.
And that was, what was that, Heaven Tonight or In Color?
Neither. They actually, the In Color album was about half done at that point. They took a break from recording it to go out on the Love Gun tour.
Wow. So you saw like the first album era.
Yeah. You know, your memory plays funny games with you, because I thought for almost my whole life that I saw Cheap Trick and Kiss, and then like a week later maybe I gave my mom my allowance or something and asked her to go out and buy Heaven Tonight for me. And I've been telling that story to people for years. It was when I really started researching this book that I realized, wait a sec, Heaven Tonight wasn't even out yet. In Color wasn't even out yet. So memory gets a little foggy after 40 years.
So so after the show, you did purchase the first Cheap Trick album?
I think I don't remember exactly the running order. I know my dad had the first two, so I may have just been spinning his for quite a while. So I do still think Heaven Tonight was my first one that I actually bought, and I just kind of kept stealing his copies of the first two for a while.
Awesome. So in the process, what inspired you to make this book? It was just pure fandom, or was there another reason behind it?
Yeah, it's pretty much just a labor of love kind of thing. I wrote a book a couple of years ago about a great band from Scotland called Nazareth, and that book was received very well, and it just got me thinking of doing another one in kind of the same format. The Nazareth book is very similar in the format that each chapter is an album, and I talk about singles and chart action and radio broadcasts and bootlegs and stuff. So I was just kind of looking around, like, if I was going to do a second book, who could I pick? And I decided to go with Cheap Trick.
I had no idea, because I do love Nazareth. I have a lot of their early... Yeah, go ahead.
That's going to have to be another show.
Yeah, definitely another show. I saw him on the Malice in Wonderland tour, and that was the very first time I ever saw Pyro.
Nice.
Because, I was pretty young back then, and I never saw Kiss yet or any of that. But, yeah, great band. What a singer. Oh, my God. Dan McCafferty. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely.
So you saw them with Zal Clemenson?
Not sure.
Remember that?
Malice in Wonderland tour. I know Blackfoot opened. That's all I remember, really. And the Pyro.
Right.
And,
great.
The song Holiday was on the radio a lot at that time.
Sure, yeah.
But going back to Cheap Trick, so when you started this book, as the same thing with Nazareth, did you have to contact a lot of behind-the-scenes people and band members to do this?
No, not really. I mean, I reached out to a few people who I thought could help the most. Bunny Carlos was a great help. He answered a lot of questions. There's some big fans who wanted to get involved and kind of help out in any way that they could, which I always welcome that, because there's a lot of really knowledgeable fans out there, and some people were great in that aspect. But the books really concentrate on the albums and the music. I don't talk at all about their personal lives or any kind of drama behind the scenes. So, it's easy just to delve into the music.
Yeah, Cheap Trick, I've always seen Cheap Trick as one of these bands that would never give you a clear-cut answer if there was any questions about drama. They're very private when, there's no behind the music with Cheap Trick, and we really don't know what the hell is going on. I mean, we've heard rumblings, but we really don't know. And I don't want to know. I like the mystery of not knowing what the hell's going on, even though I've heard little stories here, like when Tom first left the band and the reason that Bunny ain't in the band no more. It's like, But are you like a fan, like one of those Cheap Trick fans that you love everything they've done, or
No.
Yeah, okay, you're like me then.
Yeah, not at all. And I think as you get deeper into the book, you'll discover that I'm not afraid to kind of call them out on what in some ways I think are missteps. That's just an honest way of looking at it. I don't think just blind worship is a healthy thing for anybody. And the band themselves, they'll mention certain albums or songs that they're not fans of. So it's okay to be honest about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they just about every band. You can't really.
Sure.
I can name like maybe not even a handful of bands that everything was good. But I think, and you would know this too. And I haven't gotten this far in the book, but I think some of their missteps probably had to do with label pressure. That's how I feel when I hear some of those albums. I feel like they're buckling for the label. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely mentioned that they get to a point where they've got these executives at their label who, Rick Nielsen ends up being like a guest contributor on his own record. Yet the guy who wrote 95% of the material on the first 4 albums or 5 albums, and then a few years later he can barely get a song on the record. So if one of the things that made Cheap Trick so unique was Rick Nielsen's songwriting, and I definitely think that's part of it, to not let him write songs is a crucial misstep. I don't blame the band for it necessarily. I don't know if they needed management to kind of step up for them a little bit to the label, or clearly the label was trying to force them to be something that did not come naturally.
Yeah, and I feel that, and I do hear that. I hear that in some of those albums where I haven't gotten that far into the book yet, because I really, the thing about me reading your book, it is, I can't stress it enough. If you're a Cheap Trick fan, this thing is so detailed, and I thought I knew a lot, and I've discovered, even, I only got up to one-on-one so far, and there's stuff, I mean, everything up to one-on-one, I thought I knew everything, and I was like, wow, I didn't know this and that. I'm not going to give nothing away. Even when I do my reviews, I reference your book, but the real juicy stuff, I really make a point of not talking about that. I'll just talk about,
right,
little things about the songs and this and that. But I got to say, it's great. So are you, like me, are you like more of a fan of the early stuff, like, up to one-on-one, or did you go beyond that?
Yeah, my favorite period for sure would be like the first 4 albums.
Right.
I do like a lot of the stuff that they've done since the 97 self-titled record. I thought that was a tremendous record. Just a great return to form for them. And a lot of what they've done since then, I do like quite a bit. And definitely compared to some of those late 80s or early 90s records, the stuff that they've been doing in the last, 15 years or so, has been a real step in the right direction, I feel.
I think we are on the same page, man, because everything they've done, even the last 2, are great. They're like more hard rocking, but I really dug, the latest, and which is not very liked. Did you like that one?
Which one?
The latest?
Yeah, I like that one a lot, actually.
I've heard a lot of people like bash that one. I was like, man, it's a great album. It harkens back to the early stuff. I hear a little Hello Kitties type vibe, and it's just some great stuff. So, and you are aware they already got another one coming out later this year.
Yeah, that's what they're threatening.
Well, and I hope Rick is feeling better. As you know, he has pneumonia at the moment. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, of course. He's been missing a few shows, which is pretty radical in Cheap Trick history. Up until recently, he'd been present at every single show, and that's a big deal.
Who's filling in for him?
Well, you need 2 guys to replace Rick, at least. So Robin's son is playing rhythm guitar and singing a lot of the harmony vocals, and then Rick's guitar tech, Larry, is kind of standing in the background playing the checkerboard guitar and doing all the leads and the solos.
Wow.
So even visually, it looks very different to have 2 guys on that side of the stage, and and neither of them have the physical presence of Rick. Robin's son just stands there and does the job that he has to do, and Larry stands there and he does the job he has to do. There's no jumping around. There's no throwing guitar picks, making goofy faces. None of the stuff that a lot of the fans love about Rick Nielsen. They don't try to imitate him, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right, and Rick Nielsen basically is, even though he's not the singer of the band, he is the front man. He's the one that talks the most during the shows, and it's kind of. I know they're coming to Florida soon, so it'll be odd seeing that, because I have not missed a Cheap Trick show since 1979. I've seen them well over 80 times. So I'm a huge fanatic of the band, and I think they are. And I wonder if you agree with me on this. They are like the most underdog, hardworking band, no matter where they are, on top of the charts, all the way lower the charts. They slug it out and they play every show like they're playing a full arena.
Yeah, there's no doubt they're a great live band. They definitely bring it. I wish, like many Cheap Trick fans, that they did more headlining shows and weren't the perennial opening act that they seem to have been for many, many years. They're playing here in Toronto this summer, opening for Poison, and I just really wish that they were playing a smaller venue on their own and doing a full 90-minute set. But what can you do?
Yeah, they're playing here with Poison too, and they're also doing a headline thing. So I'm gonna skip the Poison tour. I did miss one Cheap Trick show this whole time saying I was when they opened for Poison and Def Leppard. I just couldn't do it. I did see them open for Heart and who was it? Journey. And again, it was okay. They played Top of the World, but that was about it. Everything else was expected. The beautiful thing about a headlining Cheap Trick show, they always mix it up. I've seen them play songs that I've never seen them play or haven't seen them play for decades, and that's just a beautiful thing. Do you touch upon any set lists in the book? I noticed so far, no.
Yeah, well, I get into that a little bit more as we go further, and as you get a little deeper into the book, you'll notice I've got some great stories from some of the fans about some shows that they've seen. So like first-hand reports. So you get people talking about seeing, when they were doing like the full album shows for a while. They did a tour where they would do like 3 or maybe 4 nights in each town, and they would do each of the 4 albums, and then the encores would just be like a free-for-all. And I got a few reports from some people who saw those shows. There's a couple of guys who were in the audience for the Conan O'Brien appearance when they played Hot Love.
Yes.
So I get some people talking about that. There's 2 different stories about a show, I think, in Hollywood, Florida. And there's some people who saw them with John Brandt talking about that. And, that's just another example of what I was saying earlier about the fans really stepping up and saying, hey, I saw something really cool. Can you use it in the book? And, how are you going to say no to a cool Cheap Trick story?
Do you remember the Hollywood, Florida story? Because I know I had to be there.
Well, see, we could have had 3 stories in there.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I'll tell you, the coolest set list I've ever seen from Cheap Trick was 96, where they played nothing but stuff up till All Shook Up. Remember that tour? That
sure.
was the only time I ever seen them do World's Greatest Lover, because I saw the All Shook Up tour, and they played every song off that album except for World's Greatest Lover, which was odd,
Yeah.
I found that extremely odd, but yeah, because I am intrigued to look into, what have they thrown out, because there's still a few songs. I have never seen them play Can't Hold On, which is one of my favorites. And but I know they, and I've never seen them do Waiting for the Man. Every time I see them, it's like, I know what I want, But
yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so
the show in question that I was mentioning was August 23rd, 1985, and there's a fan named Jim Girdman who was at that show, and he contributes a little bit of a story. And then a good friend of mine, Alyssa Pecorino, was also at that show. And so it's kind of neat having 2 different stories about the same mid-'80s show. So it was at Six Flags Atlantis.
Oh, I was there, yes.
in Hollywood, Florida. Yeah, so Tonight It's You is on the charts, and once you get to that, that's about page 106, Ralph. So once you get there, you can relive some of your memories from that show.
So, Robert, how pissed off are you that I haven't read the whole book yet and I'm interviewing you?
Not at all, actually. Anger is a place that I try not to go to too often. I'm definitely not going to go there with a fellow Cheap Trick fanatic.
Well,
I've been watching your video reviews, so I think it makes sense to kind of go through the chapters as you're doing the reviews, and we'll sort of get to the end together.
Yeah, because the whole process. I know if I read the whole book, I'm going to have to go back because I don't want to lose like any little juicy detail of a song, because that's like very important to what I want to add to my reviews. I just don't, and like I told you, I got in touch with you after, because I have reviews up to All Shook Up, all on private. And when you hit me up saying, hey man, promote my book, I was already up to, I think, Heaven Tonight maybe, or maybe not, maybe it was in color. So every review coming up, you're going to see me hold up the book, and every review I will promote your book. I
appreciate that. When I was watching the first review of the debut album, and there were just a couple things that you said, and I went, "Oh, that sounds familiar."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe I was thinking at the time doing. I go, well, maybe he'll get upset. I don't know. That I'm taking credit.
I mean, it's a reference source, right. And the same way if someone was out there trying to do some, I don't know, like a homework assignment about Cheap Trick, they would probably reference this book as well. So no, it's all good.
Well, thank you, man. I really do appreciate it. And I didn't know you. I just saw it on Amazon one day. I said, ooh, because I bought, what was it called? Fragile is a reputation is a fragile thing.
Right.
I bought that like way back in the day. The first pressing. I was like, oh my God, a Cheap Trick. There's no other Cheap Trick books, is there? That I know of.
No, there isn't. And that's one of the reasons why I want to do this. If you read a lot of rock books and a lot of music history books, there's hundreds of books about the Beatles and Bob Dylan. I love AC/DC, but I don't think their career is quite as interesting and as varied as Cheap Trick's. And there's loads of AC/DC books, including a new one by Martin Popoff that I contributed to. But, there's more books about Thin Lizzy than there are about Cheap Trick. And I love Thin Lizzy too. But there's definitely room for a few Cheap Trick books on the shelf. I would love, for someone to take the ball now and do another one. Like, why not? Their career is so long. There's no reason for us to not look at all different aspects of their career. There's dozens and dozens of Kiss books, and I love Kiss. But, I do find it odd that there's only ever been one book about Cheap Trick, the Mike Hayes book, which you mentioned. Mike's a good friend of mine. He helped out with this book a little bit. I was able to ask him some questions, and he was very helpful and positive about the experience. So, so I'm on the same page with Mike and his book, but my book is a little bit different, and it's his book came out like 20 years ago or something. So there's some albums that weren't even out yet when he wrote his book. So I thought it was time for a bit of an upgrade.
Like I was saying to you, Robert, I do have a memory that fades a lot. So I got to go revisit that book, because Reputation is a Fragile Thing, as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, it was more of a book like kind of like interviews and magazine articles and stuff like that, right? Wasn't it something like that?
Well, it's sort of it's kind of like, it's a biography, I guess, more. So there are a lot of interview quotes that were taken from like rock magazines and radio interviews. But yeah, it's just kind of it goes through like the history of the band and what they were doing in terms of, some label stuff. It's definitely not like the album by album kind of breakdown. The truth is, Cheap Trick was the first topic I was thinking about writing a book a few years ago, when Martin Popoff was really pushing me to do a book, and the reason I didn't do a Cheap Trick book was because I thought, well, Mike Hayes' book is so great. You can't compete with that. So when I learned there was no Nazareth books, that's how I chose them. And then after the Nazareth book came out and it did pretty well, and a lot of fans liked it, and the band liked it, then I thought, well, I could do a Cheap Trick one because I'll just do it in the style of my Nazareth one, and that way it doesn't kind of overlap at all with Mike's book. And so I'm glad it worked out that way. But yeah, originally I would have written this Cheap Trick book like 3 years ago or something, and it's because of Mike's that I didn't. But everything happens when it's supposed to happen, and I'm pretty happy with the results.
No, I'm very happy because the thing is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but your book is more detailed as far as the music goes, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you get all the nitty gritty and even the prehistory of Cheap Trick. The Fuse, the Grim Reapers, and very. I mean, I loved all that stuff. Which I think I'll do an episode on that once I'm done in a couple years. Because my plan is, dude, I want to do all the reviews, put them on private. That way, it'll be years before it's all done. And I will get back to it next week. I'll start with the one-on-one. See, I went up to All Shook Up, which is my love, But I'm with you, man. 97, between All Shook Up and 97, it was a little shaky for me. There was a lot of good songs here and there, almost on each album. There's one album, man, that I know, and that's another question I wanted to ask you. Because I do a lot of reviews on YouTube, and I get a lot of hate from albums I don't like. Have you received any of that yet?
No, not really. No, I wouldn't say so. The response has been like 99% positive so far. People are happy with the book. They're surprised that there is a Cheap Trick book. They like the amount of detail. Just yesterday, I got the new issue of Classic Rock magazine from the UK, and they review the book. Probably my favorite term is that the book goes beyond forensic.
Wow.
In detailing the Cheap Trick albums. So, if there's like one guy out there somewhere who is mad because he's the biggest Cheap Trick fan in the world and, no one's allowed to write a book other than him or something, you can't really pay any attention to that kind of immaturity. Cheap Trick belongs to everybody. If someone wants to write a book just all about the Budokan album or all about the Dream Police record, I would love to read a book like that. And the response has been almost overwhelmingly positive. And I get a lot of people who send me photos, as you did, of them holding the book. I have a whole page on my Facebook page for my website, thissideofthetracks.ca, where people send me photos. And, you get photos from people all over the world really happy that they've got this book. So, I'd rather concentrate on the positive aspects like that.
Yeah, I think it's more of a YouTube thing, because I get comments of people like really bashing me when I say something bad about certain albums that I review. And, but you can't escape that, those keyboard warriors. You don't have keyboard warriors when you write a book, And
right.
I also want to thank the great Ken Mills, the Podfather, because it was because of him we got in touch, right?
Yeah, Ken and BJ have been big supporters as well. I was able to ask them a lot of questions while I was writing the book and kind of get their input. I listened to their podcast every episode and got a few notes here and there, and then would ask them to clarify some things. Great guys, great Cheap Trick fans.
Great podcast,
they support
too.
the band.
Great podcast they have.
Oh, yeah.
Cheap Talk, Trick Chat, something like that?
That's right.
Yeah.
And they have their own dedicated Facebook page where people post, any news about Cheap Trick. There's actually more news on there that you'll find about Cheap Trick's current situation than you'll find like even on their official website or their official message board. So those guys are they're doing a great job keeping the word out there.
They are great guys. I met them last year. I'm about to meet them again at the Rock and Pod Expo in Nashville. And Robert, what are the odds of you going, man? That'd be great.
Yeah, I sort of been thinking about it. I would love to get out there and meet all these people as well. So maybe that's something I got to look into a little more seriously.
Especially me, man. That would be awesome. Oh, well, it'd be awesome for you.
Well, I'd be thrilled.
No, it would be great. Go ahead.
I just hope I could get through the crowds all surrounding you.
Yeah, I know it's tough. I'll make sure my bodyguards get you close to me. But
yeah, get security to let me in.
Just one picture, Robert, okay? Yeah, it'd be great because, we have, everybody has tables there. You can sell your book. And believe me, there's the last expo, Cheap Trick was talked about a lot. Not only by the Cheap Trick, there was a lot of people, Cheap Trick is a very well-respected band. It's a weird situation with Cheap Trick because they have a strong fan base, but not like the biggest fan base. But they're so well-respected, and if you were there, like you were there before me, when they did like kind of explode during the Budokan, and because I did know about them before Budokan, but and I was, at one point they were like my favorite band in the world, and my dad took me, my very first concert was them, and it was just life-changing, and to this day, I meet, you have no idea how many band members I meet, and I'm not nervous about meeting anybody except Robin Zander for some weird reason. I get very nervous meeting that guy, and he's so nice, but it's still, have you ever met like the members of Cheap Trick?
Yeah, there's a couple of times. There's a story in the introduction of my book of meeting them backstage in '99, I think it was, and then I met Rick and Tom a couple years after that at Much Music Studios, where they were premiering the video for that '70s song.
And the Bunny interview, was that like over a phone or something, or over the computer?
Yeah, it was just sort of like messages online and through email, because I didn't have a set list of questions for him. It's like as I would do more research, things would come up. So it's like when I first hooked up with him, it's not like I already had a list of like 15 questions. I probably had like one question, but as I got further in, then other things would come up, and then as I would go back and read stuff or listen to stuff, I would think, something there doesn't sound quite right. I gotta see what Bun has to say about this. So it was kind of drawn over like the period of writing the book.
Great. And they play Canada a lot because they're always down here in South Florida.
Well, they do play up here often, but usually just opening for somebody else. Last year when they were doing the Foreigner tour, that did not come to Toronto. But yeah, like I said, they're going to be here this summer with Poison. And
Robert, were you like me, like even during the lean years that you weren't digging like the albums they were releasing, you still go see them live when they came to town?
I've only seen them a few times. I definitely haven't seen them anywhere near as often as you have. The show that I saw in '99 was pretty special because it was like shortly after maybe it was '98 actually. It was shortly after the self-titled Red Ant album, and they played a few songs from that, and they played that '70s. It was a long show. They did a lot of stuff. The Foo Fighters came out and joined them for Dream Police. They sang the chorus on that, so it was a great show. I'm not sure about this Poison show if I'm going to go to. I'm sort of on the fence that maybe I'll try to get a cheap ticket and just sneak out as soon as Cheap Trick are done.
Something like that, Robert. If you walk up, one of those walk-ups, you'll get a real cheap ticket from a scalper that's desperate to get rid of tickets, thinking it was going to sell out. That's the best way to do it. Or even the window. I mean, usually day of the show, even the venue will knock down the price. If it's not sold out or anything.
Yeah, like tickets. I don't mind paying decent money to see Cheap Trick, but I want to see more than a 40-minute set if I'm paying $160 or something. So I'm probably going to do that. If it's a nice day and the sun's shining, I'm probably going to head down there and see if I can score a ticket. I'd love to be able to meet the guys and give them each a copy of the book, but we'll see.
Have you heard anything from band members about the book, other than Bunny, of course?
No, I know some of them have seen it. There's a couple of great gals who brought their copies to Robin Zander's solo shows in, was that in January or February of this year, where he does some, small little shows with his old band member Brian Beebe, and his kids come up and play songs with him, and they do like Beatles covers and stuff like that. So I know a couple of these gals. They brought their books and they got Robin to sign them and stuff like that. We'll see. So far, I think that's the extent of people who've shown them the books. But it'll happen. When my Nazareth book came out, there's all kinds of guys all around the world who were bringing the book like backstage or to the stage entrance and getting the Nazareth guys to sign it and to pose with it. And they were really happy to do it. I've got lots of pictures of people posing with them and holding up the book, and that's really neat for me to see. So I hope that starts to kind of start trickling in with Cheap Trick, so we see some photos of the guys holding the book, and hopefully not stepping on it or spitting on it or anything.
No, I think there has to be some way, Robert, you can get in touch with like a tour manager or something, because I think they would give you backstage passes for that. Hey, look, I'm the author of this book.
Well, I think it's important for them to know that it's not like a tell-all thing. As I said, there's no dirt in there. It's a labor of love. The love that I have for Robin's voice and for Rick's songwriting is very evident. Any chance I get to say what an incredible songwriter Rick is, I mention it in the book, and to mention Bun's talents and Tom's talents. So it's not like it's a gossipy, a tell-all thing at all. It's all just about the music, very respectful, and I can't imagine that they would have too much of a problem with it. Although, as you said at the beginning, they are very private people. They don't do a lot of documentaries about their career. They don't seem to like to talk about themselves too much. And when they do, they like to stretch the truth a little bit. So there may be some control issues there, but I'm hoping that they're okay with it.
I don't know. They like meeting. I've met them several times. They all seem like good guys. I can't see them have a problem with that. But I'm surprised you haven't heard any feedback yet. But I guess that's how it is for all bands when somebody writes a book about them. I don't know nothing about like writing a book about a band. So when you did the Nazareth book and the Cheap Trick book, is there any kind of clearance thing involved in that? Is there anything that you have to do to properly release it?
No, not really. They're public figures. The albums are matters of public record. You can write a book about any kind of a public figure if there's lies about them. If it's a smear kind of book, then they could possibly sue you for defamation or something. That's clearly not what this is. The example that I think of a lot is we all know what kind of a reputation Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley have of being control freaks. And maybe some of that's warranted, maybe not all of it. But still, there's loads and loads of Kiss books out there. So if you can write a book about Kiss without Gene or Paul suing you, then I think you can write a book about just about anybody, as long as it's not you don't slander them, which I would never do.
Right. And do you have like a big Cheap Trick collection? Are you one of those Cheap Trick collectors that have like the early stuff like the Fuse and Grim Reaper? Is there any Grim Reaper recordings out there? Yeah,
they did a 7-inch. I mentioned it in the early days chapter.
You have a picture in there with it, right? I believe.
I think it's a picture of a gig poster, but on the back cover of the book you can see my copy of the Fuse CD, which is the Japanese import, which Rick and Tom signed for me at Much Music Studios in Toronto. It's right at the kind of the bottom row of images on the back cover. I'm not a crazy collector. I've got all the CDs. I've got a few live recordings. I've got some live like bootleg DVDs, but I don't have like every tour program or every. I don't know. I have like 2 Cheap Trick T-shirts. I don't have hundreds of those or anything. It's always been about the music for me. So any of the albums I want to have, I have all of Bunny's Basement bootleg CDs, which a lot of people actually don't have.
Yeah, I don't. I would love to.
Yeah, they were very limited, very very limited. So,
I missed the boat on
like
that because I know he was. That was something you could have ordered. I think that was even pre-internet, wasn't it? Like around '96 or something. He was releasing those.
Yeah, they had like order forms in the Cheap Trick newsletters if you're part of the fan club, and that was really the only place you could get them. So I was a member of the fan club back then, and I was for a few years. So when I got those order forms, those were no-brainers. I had no idea that they were going to be quite so limited, but they sold out immediately. And I talk about, there's a whole chapter in the book about those, because I figured, well, if that's something not a lot of people have,
Yeah.
then we definitely want to talk about that and let them know about it was a great series. It's too bad it didn't continue.
How many of them were there?
They did 4, and volume 3 and 4 were double CDs. So in total, there's 6 discs.
And did it span like their whole career, or was it just early stuff?
Well, they were themed. So one of them was like just songs from sound checks. One was just like cover tunes. One was mostly acoustic stuff. And yeah, it would jump around quite a bit. Like Bun did a great job picking some really rare cuts to go on there. And then on 3 and 4, the bonus discs were like full, really early live shows.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, because the one I met him on the Red Ant tour, and they were sitting at a table. You had to buy a CD, you can meet him. And when I met Rick Nielsen, I asked him, "Is there any studio recordings of Lookout or Can't Hold On?" This is before the reissues, and he said, "Oh, ask Bunny." So I think if anybody in the band you wanted to get on the book was Bunny Carlos, because I think he's the more knowledgeable of their history than all the other members, I think.
Yeah, some fans are surprised by that kind of thing, that like musicians or bands, they don't know necessarily all the fine details that the fans know. But I always look at it that's not their job.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen doesn't have to pay attention to when was the last time that he did a certain song, and what are the percentage of the times that he's done it as an encore, and all those kind of baseball stats. That's not his job. His job is just to write the songs and perform them. And I think a lot of bands and musicians, they're not necessarily as detail-orientated about their own careers. I mean, they don't sit around the house listening to their records the way that we listen to them. So Bun was, I'd heard that about him, and I kind of knew that about him for a long time, that he was like the archivist for the band. So he was the guy that I hit up. Because as you go through a lot of the interviews with the guys, you start reading stuff that's doesn't seem quite true, and by doing a little bit more research, I was able to find out that a lot of times they're sort of just pulling the interviewer's leg, and I think often the person interviewing them doesn't know enough about the band to know that they're kind of being fooled a little bit. So I was able to clear up some of that stuff with Bun. He's definitely he's a Cheap Trick expert, as well as being one of the founding members for sure.
Yeah, there is a DVD out where one of the extras on there is kind of like a documentary, and it's all bullshit. I forgot.
Oh, that.
Yeah,
yeah,
was
that's
it
from
Tokyo
to You.
Love? Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I think Bozo was in there, and they were just talking about their history, and you just hearing this and going, "This ain't true." Hunt's Hall was Rick's uncle or something like that. I gotta watch it again.
Yeah, that's a weird DVD, because none of the songs are complete. The performances are excellent, but they actually edit every single song that's on the thing to cut in with interviews of the guys telling tall tales. So I have mixed feelings about that. I'd love for the songs to be complete, and I'd like the interviews to be a little more, truthful. One of the things that I found out, for years, the story has been that Southern Girls was not written about girls in your state or in Texas or anywhere like that, but they're actually about Southern Ontario girls.
Yes.
And Rick has said, like, well, that didn't rhyme as well, to say Southern Canadian girls or Southern Ontario girls. So they just said Southern girls, and people think it's about the States. And when I first heard that, I thought that was so cool, because, of course, being Canadian and living in Ontario, I thought that was amazing that they wrote a song about girls from my province. That's fantastic. And then while I'm doing the research for the book, more and more I'm seeing that there's no way that that's true, because they never even toured Canada at the time that song was written.
Oh.
That that song is part of their original 4-song demo tape that they recorded. So, you know, they weren't touring anywhere outside of like bars and bowling alleys at the time of that. So that's a direct example of me hitting up Bun and laying that out for him and just saying, this can't be true, is it? And he said, of course not. There's no way.
Yeah, because I did even, you know what? And I don't know if you saw my In Color, because it just came up last week. I put my In Color review up. And didn't I mention that? I think I mentioned that in it.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think I said it as, this is about Canadian girls.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, not true.
Not true at all. So, yeah. And another thing, here's a rumor I heard. And you did touch upon it on your book, but the rumor I heard was much further than this. And I don't know if you've heard this story. Probably not true. When they were recording the song Gonna Raise Hell, at the same exact moment that Robin Zander was screaming mother in the middle section, at that same moment was when the Jonestown Massacre was happening, where Jim Jones was saying mother, mother, you know, having the moms feed the kids Kool-Aid. Did you ever hear that rumor?
Well, I haven't heard that specifically. I have heard that the song is sort of inspired by Jim Jones and what happened at the Jonestown Massacre, and kind of like the idea of it being a hellish sort of experience for the people who were part of his, you know, commune. I had definitely heard that. I don't. I'm kind of flipping through it right now because
There was a mention of it in your book about what you said in the book was, it said it was about Jonestown, then it said it was about something else. And when I read that, I was like, I heard that rumor of, which I did an original. It's been banned on YouTube. Dream Police review on years and years ago, and I did mention that in that review because I thought it was true. You know, it was very eerie.
I believe, I can't quite find it right now, but I believe if you look at the dates of when that song was written, it like actually predates the Jonestown Massacre. So, no, it's not true. Okay,
because, you know, it was written before, but what I heard was while recording is when it was happening. That's what I heard. You know, the mother part, you know.
Yeah, right.
When Robin was screaming mother, which is an extremely epic Cheap Trick song right there.
It's fantastic.
One of my favorites.
The way he does it is just excellent. And the way that they do it on the Music for Hangovers CD is really, really horrific. I mean, it's actually scary the way he's so intense.
Yes.
I love it.
Rick Nielsen, I read in an interview, Rick Nielsen said about that performance that he felt like the walls were melting or something like that. I believe that because that Music for Hangovers, which is a combination of the shows you were talking about earlier when they were doing all the albums.
Yes.
There's a commentary during the whole show where they're all talking through the whole show. And I believe that...
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Rick said something that when we were playing this, like the walls were melting. And it's always a special thing when you see them do Gonna Raise Hell in Florida because it's rarely ever played when they play down here. Same thing with Way of the World. It's like when they play those songs, it's like, oh my God. And if you had to pick a favorite, Robert, what would be your favorite? Is it hard for you to pick?
You mean album Cheap Trick
album? Yeah, Cheap Trick album.
Yeah, I'd have to go with the debut album. I just love it. I feel it's a real missed opportunity that they didn't do anything for the 40th anniversary of it. I would have loved a 2-CD deluxe edition. I don't know why Sony didn't do that, or I don't know if they wanted to and Cheap Trick didn't want to or something. But the original Cheap Trick album from '77 is a 10 out of 10 for me. I like a lot of their records, but to me that one just has everything. It's got a punk energy. The vocals are fantastic. The songs are just weird, you know, because he's got ballads and rockers, and Hot Love is almost like a thrash kind of thing. It's just a great, great record. I think even if you're just a regular music fan and you don't really care for Cheap Trick, or you think you don't care for Cheap Trick, you need to have the debut album in your collection. Like, it'll never get old. It's a great, great record.
That's what I tell everybody that doesn't know about Cheap Trick. They only know the hits. I said, listen to that first album, because that first album, which you touch upon in your book, and I didn't know this, they wanted John Lennon to record it, to be the producer on that album, and he didn't know about this, and he said, "Oh, I would have done it," you know.
Yeah, he was sort of in a semi-retirement at the time, and I guess they didn't really know how to get a hold of him. I don't know how that would have turned out, because I love the job that Jack Douglas did on that record.
Yes.
If I have any complaint about the record, it might be that it's too short, because every song on it I think is just fantastic. I love that album.
Yeah, me too. I have to admit, the problem I have with that album is the reissue where they added some songs to it. I always having a problem with every album like that. It's like, don't just make a separate disc, because I like to hear the album end with this one starts with originally how it's supposed to, with Hello Kitties, where you touched upon that as well, as Epic Records fucked up and started the album with Hot Love, even though it was side A and what was it, side 1 and side A.
Yeah, right.
But I like to hear, the original on a CD. Then when I hear, like, I love Go Go Girls and stuff like that, it's like, oh man, kind of like takes away the magic from me. I don't know how you feel about that. It's good to have the bonus tracks, but I just like to hear an album how it's supposed to be released.
I would have done a second disc for sure, and I would have Bun involved in getting some tracks, maybe getting some new liner notes. They also make a mistake in those liner notes, because a couple of those original or those new songs in there, they say that they're recorded like after the whole album was even done. So that's actually a mistake. I don't have it in front of me right here, but they whatever the date that they say for those outtakes from the album are not true, because the album was done by that time. The album was already released by the time what they say when they were recorded. Let me find it quickly here.
And what I would love to hear, I don't know if you've ever heard this. While you look for it, I'll ask you this question. They recorded Dream Police for the first album, but I've never heard that recording. Have you ever heard that?
Well, I think that's an example of it sort of getting the truth getting a little mixed up, because they used to have a song called Ultramental, and that kind of has some of the instrumental parts of Dream Police. So I don't think Dream Police, as the song that we know it, I don't really think that was recorded for the debut record. But I do think that I know that parts of it date from further back. If you listen to, they do a Bob Dylan song, or they used to do a Bob Dylan song called Please Mrs. Henry.
Yeah, it's on the box set.
It's on the box set, and there's also, they used to do it a lot back in the club days. They did it at the El Macombo here in Toronto. There's a great radio broadcast of that. You can listen to it. There's an instrumental part in Please Mrs. Henry that does reoccur in Dream Police, where they're sort of doing a rave up, and it's just this instrumental part where they're going faster and faster. It's the part in Dream Police where then they overdub a siren on top of it. So if you listen to Dream Police again, you hear that part where it's just sort of going faster and faster, and the intensity is building, and there's a police siren. That instrumental portion originally occurred in the song Ultramental, and they used to play it in Please Mrs. Henry from back in the club days.
Is that in the box set as well, that part?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, I got to revisit that then.
Yeah. Yeah, if you listen to the version on the box set, if you don't have the Toronto or any of those 77 soundboards or radio broadcasts, if you listen to the version on the box set, you got to listen for it, but it's there. You'll hear it.
Interesting. Wow, you see, you learned something.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, exactly. You're here for that. And
I got your back.
You're here also for my YouTube reviews. I got to shout out your name now. This next review is from me and Robert Lawson.
Yeah, there you go.
This is great, man. I can go on forever, Robert. I know you're a busy guy, and we've been going on an hour now. Man, just let the people know where you can get this book. And I would love to have you back, by the way.
Yeah, we should do something for sure. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. Great interview, by the way. You were really good too.
Well, it's you've raised the bar, so it's hard to keep up. I got to bring my A game with you, Ralph.
And you did.
So the book is available on all international Amazon sites, Amazon.ca in Canada, .com in the States, but it's on Amazon Japan and France. You can really get it from anywhere. Indigo Books in Canada has it in their database that it can be ordered, although it would be cheaper from Amazon. And similarly, Barnes & Noble in the States, they have it in their inventory, so it can be ordered through them if that's easier. If someone doesn't want to order off Amazon, I suppose some people are hesitant to do that. You can go into your local Barnes & Noble and place an order for it. I post a lot of information about it on my website, thissideofthetracks.ca, and that same website you can look it up on Facebook or just look up me, Robert Lawson, on Facebook, and we talk about the book constantly. Whenever somebody gets a copy and posts a photo, there's always a lot of chatter. And the Cheap Talk guys are pretty good. There's always a lot of talk about the book on their Facebook page, so check them out as well.
Great. I thank you so much, Robert. Did you have fun?
Yeah, this was great, Ralph. We definitely got to do it again.
I appreciate it. I will get my hands on that Nazareth book. Still available, right?
Yeah, the Nazareth book and like the Cheap Trick book, both books are available on paperback, hardcover, or an e-book, whatever the hell that is.
Isn't that like oh, that's where you read it online, I think.
Yeah, it's like for a Kindle device or a handheld device. But if you like an old-fashioned, nice paperback, a nice hardcover book, both of them are available in those formats.
Well, that's what I like. I like hardcover. That's what I bought. The Cheap Trick's only available on hardcover at the moment? Or you can get a paperback version?
Yeah, you can get a paperback.
Yeah, no, I go with the hardcover.
Yeah, I think the hardcover looks great. My friend Clive Palmer designed the cover for me, and he did such a great job that there's a new singles collection out in Japan that kind of rips off the cover that Clive did for my book. So there's
really?
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery there.
Yeah.
That there's an actual Cheap Trick CD where the cover just looks like my book.
Well, that's awesome, Robert. I can't thank you enough for doing this Viera Vault for me, and I will pimp the hell out of this show and pimp the hell out of your book for the next couple years, because every month, just so everybody knows, this coincides with Robert, on Cheap Trick Tube on YouTube, every first Friday of every month, I'm going to have a new review. I'm going to be plugging the book. I'm going to have little links how to get the book, and you'll have links here. You listening to this podcast right now, look below. There'll be a link how to get a hold of the book, and highly recommend it. If you're a Cheap Trick fan, it's a must.
There you go.
So thank you so much, Robert, and stay warm, bro. I'm sure it's cold as hell up there, huh?
Today's not too bad. Today it got a little bit warmer, but we're definitely ready for a real spring and a real good summer up here. We're ready for it.
It was really cold here a couple days ago. You'll never believe it. It was in the 60s, man.
Oh, poor thing. You're a hero.
Yes, I am. Again, dude, thank you so much, and I'll have this up as soon as possible. And everybody out there, please check out this book. Check out Cheap Trick. If you don't like Cheap Trick, like Robert said, at least give the first album a chance.
Right, yeah.
All right, man. It's been great, Robert. Thank you so much. And we will keep in touch, and I'll have you back on the show.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ralph.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Well, all right. There you go. Robert Lawson. Great guy. Great author. Check out the book. The link is below. The Listener's Guide to Cheap Trick. If you're a Cheap Trick fan, you must get this. Okay, so now it's time to go into the reviews. Now, bummer. For some reason, I can't read the iTunes review I got because I did see it, and now iTunes doesn't want to show it to me because iTunes is the devil. But I promise you, next week I will read it, and hopefully I'll read more than one. Come on, leave me comments there, and it'd be nice. And also, okay, let's go into. I got some comments on Spreaker, which is rare. Spreaker has some comments here. A man Wagner on the Armored Saint said, Bitch and the Saint are always and been the real deal. That's awesome. Eric Gutierrez said, hell yeah, Ralph, very sick. Armored Saint. Killer, Eric. Eric's a good guy. A thrasher. I believe he is a fan of, well, I don't like the word fan. A friend of Thrasher Die. Okay, and now I got one on Podbeam here. Let me get my phone here in motion. And it is from Joe Mama's Total BS. And this one's on the Bob Nalbamian show. He said, good shit once again. I will definitely check out these documentaries out. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe part 2 of the Thrash one is out now. I pre-ordered it, so it should be getting here any day now. You can get it on Amazon or, anywhere. I mean, listen to that episode or click on that episode and you'll get the links to how to purchase those DVDs. And now on YouTube. This first one is from Kim Dingo on the Paul Stanley audiobook one. He said, Paul Stanley has destroyed Kiss. It's not Kiss anymore. It's Paul's ego, pink, purple, drag queen, gay show. Okay. I do not like Scab Kiss, so I am with you there. As far as it being gay, I don't know, man. I gotta say, Paul Stanley is very effeminate and pretends to be gay a lot, especially in the Unmasked era, and no, the 70s too. Very androgynous. But I don't know, he's probably, I don't think he's gay. I really don't. He may have like that, he's gay, but he's in denial, so he doesn't know he's gay, so, because he's married, Anyway, so the next one, geez, I can't tell. It's episode 15, whatever that is. Oh, I guess that's the Gene Simmons one, because Pens fan 77 said, fuck the haters. It's your money, do what you want with it. That's right. I mean, it's like these people, are telling me what to do. It's not like I tell them what to do. It's not like I go to their local glory hole and slap the cock out of their mouth, right? James Yule on episode 13 said, every Glenn Danzig song is a ripoff of someone else's song. Okay. Cool. Mike Relford on episode 12 said, I'm just about to, ooh yeah. Oh, I'm just about to, ooh yeah. Man, what song is that? I know that's a Kiss song. Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Episode 15, Terrence Reardon and Friends podcast. He has an audio-visual podcast on YouTube. He said, you talking to Gene ruled. Glad you got to get a big name on your show. Yeah, man, that was awesome, man. Even though it's not like, I got him on the show. I had to go to him. I paid big money to get him on my show. And damn proud of it. I don't regret a second of it. So, goof on me all you want. I got the money. And you're cheap. James Yule on The Armored Saint said, John Bush is among the finest rock singers in the business. And my favorite Anthrax vocalist. Awesome, James. Mine too. I may not, my favorite Anthrax album is not with John Bush, but he's definitely my favorite singer of the three. I'm not counting that guy that shit on Frank Bellows' back. Have you heard that rumor? Somebody needs to ask, somebody of Anthrax that. Of course, I can't get no member of Anthrax, but if I could get a member of Anthrax on my show, I'll ask that damn question. Because that's the rumor. Dan Nelson, the guy that was in the band for a little while, even recorded Worship Music, but they erased his vocals and put Joey Belladonna on it. The rumor is he was kicked out of the band for shitting on Frank's back while he was asleep. Anyway, so yeah, get them on my show and I'll ask it. Get anybody on my show. I ain't gonna pull back. Abby and Hannah's dad said on the Armored Saint one, fucking hell, Ralph, you bring it every episode. Thanks, man. You make my day. Well, Abby, your comment made my day. So thank you so much, man. You rock. And another one from Scribble, the guy that did my rap song, Epic Rack, he's just said, fuck yeah, to the Armored Saint one. And that's all the comments and reviews I got for this week. But tune in next. And believe me, the next episode I think is going to be up in less than a week. Because I have an interview lined up and a very interesting musician that I have that many of you know. You know, it's not like, you know, I got like, you know, a platinum selling artist, but this guy played on a very well underground album that if you're into metal, you will know about it. So I haven't conducted the interview yet, so keep your fingers crossed. It's supposed to be in the coming week, and I am going to put it up less than a week from now. So tune in. It's going to be a good one. I'm very, very well prepared for that one. Now, let's get into the vault. Oh, man, I forgot to turn the AC on. It's fucking hot in here. I got to make this quick. This one is, yes, it's a Cheap Trick recording. Now, this actually is very rare. Only Cheap Trick heads know this one. In I'm not quite sure of the year, it's either 79 or 80, they performed Johnny Be Good with Angus Young and Bon Scott. So this is a very rare recording of AC/DC, two members of AC/DC with Cheap Trick, doing the Chuck Berry classic, Johnny Be Good. Check it out. All right, there you go. Cheap Trick with Bon Scott and Angus Young doing Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry. Now, let's get into the plugs and I'll come back to say my goodbyes.
I am Dr. Fuck.
And I'm the Absolute Alcoholic.
And we are part of the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast.
We are the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast.
That's right. And the way you can check us out is we are on iTunes and also Podbean. And we forgot a review recently. I got this review right here. It says right here, it says, Rock and Metal Combat Podcast is the greatest podcast in the world, and it's my number one podcast, signed by Science. Now, and then Science also said... Science also said, my second favorite podcast is It Doesn't Matter, the rest suck. Rock and Metal Combat Podcast on iTunes and Podbean. Check it out.
Science!
Tired of your long commute and boring workday? Well, join Brian Davis and his gang of movie buffs as they talk about a different movie subject every week on Damn Good Movie Memories. We discuss movie themes like our favorite movie villains, favorite soundtracks, and worst movie remakes, and much more. Check us out on iTunes and Podbean at damngoodmoviememories.podbean.com.
Hey, rock music fans, this is Terrence Reardon of the Terrence Reardon and Friends Audiovisual Podcast. Join yours truly as I look every week at a different classic rock or metal album that had a major impact on my life, and I'm usually joined by a friend or two or 10, and we talk about nothing but great classic rock and metal. And there's no country or Sammy Hagar or rap on the fucking show. That shit is frowned upon with yours truly. So if you want a great classic rock audiovisual podcast, tune on in to the Terrence Reardon and Friends Audiovisual Podcast. New episodes every Monday, exclusively on YouTube.
This is Ian Wadley, Wadzilla from Wadzilla's World. Do you want to hear the greatest, most eclectic show on the internet? Show up for the best in hard rock, heavy metal, classic rock, funk, soul, and anything else I deem necessary. Wadzilla World, only on Cranium Radio, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be here or be a bitch.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Chris.
And we're from the Decibel Geek Podcast. And if you love this...
then you'll love us.
That's right. Brand new episode every single Monday. You can find us on iTunes and at decibelgeek.com. And the best thing is, it's rock and roll and it's always free.
Hey, headbangers, you want your own radio show? Well, you got it. On Thursday nights here on that metal station, join me on the Dr. Fuck Show. Go in the chat room and I will make you my co-host. That's right. Everybody that joins me in the chat room, I discuss whatever you guys want to talk about. I'll mention your name, I'll say what you say, and we're going to go back and forth. And I'll even fucking play whatever request you want. Unless it sucks, then I ain't playing it because my show rules. And only songs that rule is allowed right here on that metal station. The Dr. Fuck Show airs live Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then they repeat it on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there. Well, no, fuck that hope. I better see you there, motherfucker.
From New York.
Hey. What up, bangers? From North Carolina.
Skitter Pal Meow Meow.
This is Bushy.
And the Mountain Man. Tune in every week for your listening pleasure only on The Plug with Bushy and the Mountain Man. You can find us on Podbean and iTunes.
All right, my friends, that brings an end to another Viera Vault. As always, I thank you so much for tuning in. I thank everybody that leaves comments and reviews. And if you're listening to my voice now, as I always say, I love you. So in less than a week, I'll have another one up with an exclusive interview, and it's going to be great. Trust me. So my final words are, bye. No, that was just one word. I'll do it 2 words. My final words are good and bye.